Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
And welcome to the Tiberius Show today. And I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, we're looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's guest is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to a senior executive. Do you have any idea what a senior executive does? Well, neither do I. So let's talk to this guy and find out. Let me introduce our next guest, the one, the only, the amazing Richard Ungaro.
Glad to be here.
Sweet. Well, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you are listed as a senior executive. Now, I know a senior is over 65 and an executive run stuff. So does that mean a senior executive is someone that's over 65 and run stuff?
No, a senior executive is someone who supervises executives. So if you're a vice president, then your boss could be a senior vice president or an executive vice president or something higher than that. So that's what a senior executive does. They evaluate or they manage executives.
Well, that makes a lot more sense now. Well, according to my dad, you have worked with growing some companies like Burger King, Wendy's, Blockbuster, and Starbucks Coffee even. Well, did you always have a passion for helping a company expand?
No, I never did. I started as an engineer at Ford Motor Company designing engine plants, and I didn't even know I liked people because I wasn't working with people. I was working with engineers. And when I got to Burger King as an industrial engineer, I started working with 16-year-old kids. I was only 23, and I had no idea. And that was for the first time at 23, I realized I really like people, and I didn't know I did.
Wow. So which business was the most fun to work on?
Well, they were all fun to work on. Burger King was fun because I got out of the auto industry and got into retail. But I would say of all the ones, I'd think probably Blockbuster was the most fun because it was movies, it was retail, and I spent 19 years in the hamburger business, so I was always worried about dogs chasing me on the way home because I smelled like French fries when I came home from work. So I got into retail. It was clean, it was easy to do, but it was movies. It was all about the movie business, and so that was probably the most fun.
Wow, okay. So what is your strategy for expanding businesses so fast?
Well, it's people. You have to have the best people, and you got to keep them. You got to train them, and you got to teach them, and then you got to develop them so they move up along the organization. But it's the selection and the onboarding and the training of people, getting people ready.
Okay. Well, what key factors do you consider crucial for a successful expansion of a retail operation?
It's real simple. You should never grow your company greater than the rate of your growing your people, ever. Because if you do, you're literally have outgrown the ability to operate your business. A lot of companies call that growing pains, but it's not growing pains. You simply have outgrown the ability to manage your people.
Okay. Well, what's the best part about working as a senior executive?
It's watching people grow and watching people develop. Even today, I have people that worked for me for 30 years ago that I still keep in contact with, and I still watch them grow in their organization. And to know you played a part in helping them do that is really, really the key part of being in a growth company and watching young people grow.
Okay. Well, now he seems like a good time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
And we are back here talking with Richard Ungaro. Richard had worked in various varied roles in the corporate world and the fast food industry. So, Richard, since you've been doing this for a very long time, well, how has the food retail landscape evolved over the years, and what changes do you see shaping in the industry in the future?
Well, it's dramatically different. When I started, I spent 19 years in the hamburger business, 10 years with Burger King and 9 years with Wendy's. When I started with Burger King in 1972, a Whopper was 75 cents. And today it's, close over $3. But I would say that what's changed is with labor laws, with new regulations, with minimum wage, all the things that are really going against their bottom line. Today, they are really working to try to. They're searching for pennies, whereas before it was much more profitable. It's not quite as profitable today.
Yeah. So what's the most misunderstood part about your business?
Well, it depends the business, but I'd say in quick service and in restaurants, it's that the companies are making tons of money, because they're really not. It's all down to pennies and fractions of a penny to be able to do that. And think about it this way: the price of a Whopper is whatever it is today. If the minimum wage all of a sudden goes up, 15% or 10%, that profit comes out of someplace and it goes back to the consumer to higher prices. So
Yeah. Well, what are one of the most common pitfalls or mistakes that businesses make when trying to expand their business?
they try to go too fast is the number one issue. Even today with clients that I work with, they're growing too fast and they're not doing it. Here's my rule when it comes to hiring and selecting people and training them. I don't believe that you should be training people because you train dogs. You teach people. And so when you're teaching someone, you're trying to just validate that they understand what you're trying to say, comprehension. So that's where most companies fail. They don't do that.
Okay. Well, what is the best way to avoid those problems?
Well, the best way to do it is when you're teaching someone is to have them, you got to stop after you're done and have them recite back to you what you just told them to make sure that they thoroughly understand what you've told them. So you have the ability to correct them to make sure they really did understand what you said.
Okay. Well, as you help expand a company, do you have to study the customers and how they buy to determine where to put in their location?
Oh, that's a great question, because that's absolutely true. You really have to be obsessed with your customer and with your employees. I refer to employees as the internal customer, and those are the ones that serve the external customer. But you have got to today be obsessed with your customers and how they feel, as well as your employees, your internal customer, and how they feel.
Okay, I see. Now, I know you because we met at Rotary. So what have you learned in Rotary that you've put into practice in your work?
Well, Rotary was more of a matching of my values. It wasn't anything that I actually learned from Rotary. I had the values of service above self, and you refer to it in your class as lion, but I can tell you it's the same thing. It's treating people the way you want to be treated all the time. Rotary had that, and Rotary is a volunteer organization, for those that don't know, that is committed to service above self, to help people that you will never meet and they will never meet you. And I joined Rotary 15 years ago to make a difference, and I'm still in Rotary because I am.
Okay. Well, as a member of Rotary, you believe in service over self, which you do.
I do.
Well, can you explain to my listeners exactly what that means?
Sure. It's sort of like the same as with a company. You've got to be able to put what you're servicing and people you're helping. So when a Rotarian meets someone, they don't ask them, what can you do for me? They ask them, what can I do for you? How can you help someone? And that's what Rotary is. Rotary is an organization that helps other people.
Well, that makes a lot more sense now. Mm-hmm. Well, have you ever worked on expanding a company outside of the United States? Yeah,
I've done it a couple times. One in Germany and one in the Orient, Japan and China.
Wow. So how is it different?
Well, from the standpoint of internal customer, it's really not that different. But in China, for example, you have to provide health benefits not only to the employee, but to their family. You don't have to do that in the United States. In Europe, of course, you don't have to do that either. And in Europe, they take long breaks during the day. And in Italy, I call it a siesta, but it's really not. But you don't have a full day. Their work schedule is different. So you got to sort of accommodate it. But when it comes down to customer satisfaction, the internal customer, and it's the same, no matter where you are.
Okay. So what is the craziest thing that has happened while you were doing your passion?
Well, I was in Detroit. This was when I was with Wendy's. I was in Detroit. And while I was working in the evening, visiting stores with the other people I was supervising, somebody died in the drive-thru. And so I crawled out the drive-through window. I went back to the speaker where the customer was, and I realized that he was dead. And so I told everybody in the restaurant, he's dead. So I jumped into the car, slid him over, and pushed the car out of the way so that the other cars behind him could be serviced. That was probably the most bizarre thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow. I'm just stunned. Holy.
It shocked me too. I didn't expect to find a person dead, but he was dead.
Okay, so if someone wanted to work towards being a senior executive, what is the first thing that they should do?
The first thing you do, no matter when you come into a company, you have to do a good job at your job. You're recognized for it. You move up one level, and it's a thing that gradually has time. I started in the restaurant business, like I said, when I was 23. I started as an engineer. I had a goal. That I wanted to be a vice president by the time I was 30. And I joined, that was 7 years. And I did that. And I became the youngest vice president in the history of Burger King. I was 30 years old when I became vice president. Then I set a goal. I wanted to be a president by the time I was 40. And I did that too. So set a goal and then you work towards it. But it's how you do in your current job and the recognition you get from it, from your supervisor, and then you're recognized for it and you move up a level. And gradually, as you move up a level, you continue to always try to do the job you're expected to do. So.
Okay. So who can you say that was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
For me, it was my uncle. He was an engineer at Ford. When I got out of school, he was really my role model. And he's in Detroit still. But I learned a lot from him. I learned business ethics, how to treat people, and all that sort of stuff. But I always knew, even growing up, my mom and my dad both focused on all of us that always treat people the way you want to be treated. So that was pretty much the rule that I still have today.
Well, okay. Well, can you provide an example of a situation that didn't go as planned? And what did you learn from that?
Oh, I have tons of those. I would say, first of all, where I've had issues is when I've brought in partners. I haven't had too much success long-term with partners, whether they be investors or whether they be actual partners. So I would say that's always been one of those decisions I've always regretted down the line. I brought in the wrong person, the wrong investor, and so on. But I would say that was probably consistently the thing I've been most disappointed in.
Okay. Well, what advice would you give my listeners if they wanted to grow up and be a senior executive?
Well, always treat people the way you want to be treated, always. No deviation. And always respect other people's opinions. Listen. It's always better to listen than it is to talk. And when you talk with enthusiasm, but it's impossible to listen with enthusiasm. You just got to be quiet and you got to listen. You got to be there. And you got to listen to what they're telling you, because what they're telling you is a way for which you can help them. You can't do it if you don't know that. Otherwise, you try to solve a problem that doesn't exist. So listen more than you talk is always a good rule.
That makes sense. So what's the best advice that you've ever received?
To listen and to not talk too much, and to listen to what other people have to say. Because I say it this way, I know how I feel about everything, but I don't know how the person I'm talking to feels. So my job is to try to understand how they feel, how they view this current issue, and to try to understand their point of view better.
Wow.
Be a good listener.
That makes sense. Well, what was the very first job that you've ever had?
I was an hourly employee working at Ford Motor Company in an engine plant, putting cars together.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a big job.
It was an interesting job. It was my first job. I was still in high school when I did it.
Wow. Well, was there anything you learned from that job that helped you to be a better executive?
I learned you have to be on time. I learned you have to learn your skill and your craft, and you got to do a better job than you expect. Because if you do a better job than you expect, you're going to do a better job than your boss expects.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what message do you want to tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
Well, I have 8 grandsons, and I give them advice all the time. But I would say always set a goal for yourself. I always tell my grandsons the same thing. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. That's first. Secondly, always treat people the way you want to be treated, and with respect especially.
Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills. And we're back with Senior Executive Richard Ungaro. Now, Richard, what is your favorite part of your day?
No question, the morning, because I'm up before everybody else. Nobody's bothering me, and I can get a lot more done when no one's bothering me.
Nice. Well, what is the latest business that you're currently working on?
I am the chairman of a company called Promising People. And this is a company that uses uses virtual reality glasses. But basically, we teach a prisoner while they're in prison how to be an electrician. And then with virtual reality masks. And then they go 64 tests. And when they get out of prison, then we get them a certificate at a community college. And then we hire them. And then we place them in an electrical company, still working for us. And the difference is we pay them closer to union wages right out of prison.
Holy cow.
I know. We love doing it. Gives people a second chance.
So why is this new business important to you?
Just because it makes a difference. And when you get older, and I'm old, but when you get older, you try to pay back. You try to do something that pays back to be valuable, or a way of saying thank you for all that has happened to me, things that I've been blessed with, and it's a way of giving back. That's what Rotary's about. That's what Promising People is about. It's called promisingpeople.com.
Okay. Well, I love VR. Well, is this something that a kid could use?
Oh, yeah. We hired a company that does 3D color video, and they work with the Air Force for simulators. We hired them to create the 3D video, and then we hired a guy from Disney whose job it is to stop motion sickness on the rides. We hired him to help us so that the VR wasn't going to cause you to be motion sickness. And we got those. So,
well, can I try it?
I don't have one, but if I had one, I'll get one for you to try. Yeah.
Okay.
But I will tell you what the reaction has been to everybody. It doesn't matter where we are. We can be in a prison. We can be talking to someone in law enforcement, whatever. When we tell them to put the glasses on and they put the glasses on, their first reaction has always been, no matter what country we're in, no matter what state we're in, their reaction has always been the same. They say, "Oh my God." And that's what we wanted. We wanted, "Oh my God."
Well, if you could go back 10 years, okay, 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
10 years? I think I would have given myself better advice on how to prepare for retirement income. I think that's probably what I would have. I don't think I would have told myself anything different other than be ready for retirement income coming in when you retire. Okay. In case you don't know, I've retired 4 times. So I have no credibility.
Well, what was the biggest mistake that you've ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
The biggest mistake I made, I don't know. It's pretty hard to say. I would say probably I traveled a lot. I traveled around the country, probably traveled more than I should have, put a lot of burden on my wife and the kids as they were growing up, and I would have liked to have been there more often in hindsight. I knew that one night when I was trying to help my oldest son study for a math test over the phone when I was in Los Angeles and he was in Atlanta, and the test was the next day. And that's when I started to feel like, you know what, I should be home more often.
Yeah. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I play golf. Golf is it. And spoil grandchildren, which is really what my wife and I love to do, because spoiling your grandchildren is a great way to get even with your kids. We love spoiling our grandchildren. And we do spoil our grandchildren.
So do you play video games? And if you do, what is your favorite one?
No, I don't. I don't play video games. My grandchildren do.
Not even on your phone?
No, I don't. I'm on the phone to do emails or Facebook with the grandkids. That's about it.
Okay, so what is your favorite book to read?
Well, I read tons of books. I'm reading a book almost all the time. I like nonfiction. I guess my favorite book is a story about Henry Ford and the starting Ford Motor Company. And I think most people don't know that here's a good trivia question for you, Tiberius. Who started General Motors?
Henry Ford.
Henry Ford. Most people don't know that because Henry Ford started a company called the Henry Ford Company, and he got fired from it because he didn't. They went broke, and so they fired him. And then that later became Fisher Body, which became General Motors. Most people don't know that. But I like reading books. I've read the book on the origin of how Dunkin' Donut got started, how McDonald's got started. I love those kinds of books of companies that they started and what the idea was. And the Dunkin' Donut story really fascinated me because he started the company up in Boston. And their original tagline was getting up to make the donuts. But anyway, every company has a unique beginning. And reading those books on how companies started is something I really enjoy doing.
Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story you don't remember? This is a kid show. But that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
One story, huh? That I'm embarrassed by or I'm not supposed to tell? So here's my most embarrassing story. I was flying from Miami to Cleveland. And I got on the plane, and as we're getting ready to land, the pilot comes on and says, "We're in our final descent into Newark, New Jersey." And I looked at the guy next to me and said, "The pilot doesn't even know where we're going." He said, "We're going to Newark, New Jersey." And the guy said to me, "We are going to Newark, New Jersey." I got on the wrong plane. My bags went to Cleveland, and I went to Newark, New Jersey. That was embarrassing.
Wow.
I know.
That is...
Stuff happens. What can I tell you?
How'd you even get on the plane?
I know. Well, two gates left at the same time. And so there was a gate A and a gate B, and they didn't look at tickets, I guess. This was way before 9/11, but this was many years ago. But sure enough, I mean, I ended up in Newark, New Jersey, trying to find a way to get to Cleveland where my bags were.
Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
No, I'm just a grandpa that has retired 4 times. I'm a Rotarian, and I love playing golf, and I love being retired.
Okay. Well, do you have a Facebook or website for my listeners who want to follow you?
I do not. I only do Facebook. I guess you can get me on Facebook, or you can email me. My email is the number 4, and then my last name, Ungaro. At gmail.com.
Huh. Well, what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Oh, no, you pretty much asked me everything. I wasn't ready for the embarrassing question, and I wasn't ready for having bad partners and investors. So I think you probably got a lot more out of me than I was thinking I was going to tell you in the very beginning of it. So.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, thank you so much, Richard, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Sure. I love Math Corners.
Sweet.
These are quart canning jars you're looking at right now. We'll be putting away a lot of cooked beans.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And thank you, Richard, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to do some more multi-step word problems. My dad is always good at finding new problems for me to solve. And today, we're going to talk about the perimeter of a business. Ooh. So, Ricky wants to expand his business into a new building. They tell him that it's a rectangular building and has a length of 5 meters longer than its width. If the perimeter of the building is 54 meters, what is the dimensions of the business, and what is the area that they plan to use?
Well, okay. It's the width is the unknown, and then the length is 5 plus the unknown, so it's 5 plus x. So you got 2 sides, so you got x plus 5 twice, and you've got x twice. So you got 2x plus 2x plus 5, or plus 10. So you should have 4x plus, 4x
Plus 5.
plus. Okay.
You know what? I got this.
Okay. Come
Well,
on.
first, this is a real world problem because we do know that people do want to expand their business, but usually, I think they're provided all the measurements before they buy the building. Like, why figure it out yourself? So to solve this, you first have to find a formula. Well, we know that one side is 5 meters longer than the other, so then we can assign an x to the width and x plus 5 to the length. Since it's a rectangle, then you can do 2 times the length times the width.
There you go.
And then 2 times x plus 5, which we know is 54 meters. Now, we need to solve that equation. Using the distributive property, you can do 2x plus 2x plus 10 equals 54, and then simplify that to 4x equals 44. Wow, well, that's much easier. And now just divide by 4 and you get 11 meters for the width, and add 5 and you get 16 meters for the length. Now, to find out how much space you have to work with, well, 16 times 11 is 176, so Ricky has 176 square meters to fit his business in.
You got it. Perfect.
But what if there's more floors? And we'll get to that later. So, Richard, is 176 meters a lot of space to run a business?
Well, it's a little bigger than your dad's office. So I'd say it is. It's 11 by 16. Yeah, that's enough to run your business.
Okay. Now, Richard, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math in your work?
Oh, I do it every day, all the time. First of all, it's economics. Try and understand. You want to make sure you always spend less money than your income for every week, every month. Always. Never spend more than you make. There's math there. Every time you buy something, you got to know how much money you're going to get back in change. And everything you do all day long, all the time is math. Math is really one of the key things for you to learn in your life.
Yeah, not wrong. Well, thank you so much, Richard, for your help with Math Corners.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the heart of a lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and ability. This week, we're going to talk about obedience. For me, I think obedience is being fully committed to doing what is pleasing to God. The qualities of obedience are compliance with a good attitude and respect for the laws. You know when someone is being obedient when they follow instructions willingly and thoroughly. So, this week, I was in my driveway when I told my dog to sit. Nico sat right away. I realized that I tell Nico to go outside and to come back all the time. That's exactly what he's told willingly and thoroughly. Seeing this made me realize that the training and loyalty that I put into my dog is similar to the training and trust my father puts into me. I worked on training my dog so that he can be safe from bad things in the world, and now I can see my dad is trying to prepare me to be safe in this world as well. So, Richard, did you see or use obedience at all this week?
Oh, absolutely. Obedience is even as something as simple as driving and abiding by the speed limit, following the rules. And I try to always have a goal in my life, always have been, even when I was young, and especially after I had kids. And that is never do something that you never would like your children or your family to know about, that you did something wrong. Always do something that's right, because think, if you did something wrong, do you want your family to have to deal with the decision that you made? I used to tell my kids when they were growing up, it isn't that your mother and I don't trust you. It's your mother and I don't have enough self-confidence. So what happened was, as you were growing up, now you're growing up, you're going to be making decisions without us being there. Yeah. We're not going to be there. So we haven't had developed a self-confidence yet to know we've ingrained in you the decisions that you have to make. So over time, you're going to determine whether Mom and I trust you or not by the decisions you make. You're helping us build self-confidence. That's as simple as that. We did that with all of our kids as they were growing up. And it really is part of obedience.
Okay. Well, of all of the Heart of a Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
I think leadership. Leadership by far. Because being a leader really does impact other people, and it also impacts yourself too. The world needs leaders, and a good leader is someone who creates leaders, not a follower. And so if you're a good teacher and you're leading, people will follow you because of what you can teach them. So I think leadership is important. They're really all important, but for me, leadership is the one that becomes the most obvious one.
Well, we should always try and be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Richard Ungaro for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about being a senior executive and working with so many companies.
I had a ball. This was great.
Well, do you mind showing us or giving us your social media website?
I don't have one. I'm retired.
I know the baby can
I have
reach you.
I have email is probably the best way to reach me. The number 4, and then my last name UNGARO @gmail.com.
Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show, and I would like to thank WWPR 1490 AM, KNT98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easy Way TV, and all the other stations that air my show. And please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Richard, have you subscribed yet?
I am going to do that. I get your podcasts on iTunes, but after today, I'm going to go on and subscribe to get you on YouTube.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Oh, and leave a comment if you want to start working as an executive. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy. That's a wrap.
Cool deal.